Emergency summit. Behind closed doors. The bill just arrived. Right now in Washington, they are counting. Not votes, not allies. Money, your money. 75 years of receipts, $800 billion a year. And a single question nobody wants to answer. Why is America still paying Europe's defense bill? Here is what they discovered. For every dollar Germany spends on its own defense, America spends 3 protecting German soil. For every soldier France deploys, America stations 10. And while European nations build free healthcare and 6-week vacations, American bridges collapse and cities crumble. The pattern is not random, it is deliberate. Poland just asked for more bases. Romania wants missile systems. The Baltic states need everything. And guess who writes the check? Every single time. This is not about politics. This is about math. And the math is screaming. Welcome to the financial forensics. Now, before we expose how Europe turned America into its personal ATM machine, I need to ask you something important. You see that subscribe button below? Here's why it matters. The mainstream media will not tell you this story. They get invited to NATO summits, they get access, they play nice. But channels like mine, we follow the money. We read the budget reports they release at midnight. We connect dots they pretend do not exist. So hit that subscribe button right now, not tomorrow, not later, now. Because what you are about to learn will change how you see every foreign policy decision coming out of Washington. And look, if this investigation makes sense to you, if you want more people to understand where their tax dollars really go, then hit the like button too. It costs you nothing but tells the algorithm that Americans deserve the truth about their money. Drop a comment below. Tell me, did you know America pays more for European defense than most European nations combined? Did your parents know? Did anyone ever ask you if this is how you want your money spent? I read every comment. And trust me, Washington reads them too. Now, let us follow the trail, because the evidence around NATO's free rider problem is becoming impossible to ignore. And once you see the numbers, you cannot unsee them. When NATO started in 1949, America was the only power standing strong. Europe was broken, cities were destroyed, factories were gone. The plan was simple. America would pay most of the bills while Europe rebuilt itself. This was meant to be temporary, a short-term fix. Here is the historical fact that matters. In 1950, America's economy made up nearly half of the entire world's output. No other nation came close. Washington could afford to carry the load, but only for a while. The anomaly? Europe did rebuild. Germany became an economic giant. France, Italy, and Britain recovered fully. Yet the financial arrangement never changed. America kept paying as if the war ended yesterday. The pattern froze in place like a clock that stopped ticking. Think of it like lending money to a friend after a crisis. Years later, they own a house and a car, but still expect you to cover dinner. The logic breaks down. The math stops working. The open question is uncomfortable. Did anyone in Washington ever set a real deadline for this bargain? Or was the assumption of permanent American generosity built into the system from day one? The trail of evidence suggests the original deal expired long ago, but nobody signed the paperwork. NATO members agreed to spend 2% of their GDP on defense. This promise has existed for years. On paper, it sounds fair. In reality, the numbers tell a different story. The historical pattern is damning. For decades, most European allies spent far below this target. Germany, one of the richest nations on Earth, averaged around 1.2% for years. Canada stayed even lower. Only a handful of countries met the goal. Here is the irregularity that should alarm you. In 2014, after Russia took Crimea, NATO members renewed their 2% pledge with great urgency. Yet years passed, and most still fell short. The promises kept coming. The money did not. Meanwhile, America consistently spent between 3 and 4%. The gap widened every single year. It was like a group project where one student does most of the work while the others collect the same grade. The connection to the broader problem is clear. Just as the original bargain expired without adjustment, the spending pledges became empty words. Allies learned that promises without consequences carry no weight. The uncomfortable question remains, if decades of pledges produced no real change, why would anyone believe the next round of commitments? The data suggests the 2% target was never a rule. It was a suggestion that America quietly covered. NATO was built to guard Western Europe from Soviet attack. The map was clear. The mission was focused. Then the Soviet Union collapsed in 1991. Instead of shrinking, NATO grew larger. The historical fact is striking. In 1949, NATO had 12 members. Today, it has 32. The alliance pushed eastward, adding Poland, the Baltic states, and others right up to Russia's borders. Each new member came with a guarantee. An attack on one means war for all. The anomaly is hard to ignore. An alliance designed for one enemy kept expanding after that enemy disappeared. The original purpose faded, but the commitments multiplied. America's defense obligations stretched across a wider map than ever before. Think of it like a security company that keeps adding clients without hiring new guards. Eventually, the protection becomes thin. The promise becomes harder to keep. Just as spending pledges turned hollow, the strategic focus also blurred. NATO intervened in Kosovo, Libya, and Afghanistan, missions far from its original territory. Each operation added cost and complexity without clear benefit to American security. The open question lingers: did expansion make the alliance stronger? Or did it create vulnerabilities that never existed before? The trail suggests NATO's growth came without a matching growth and shared sacrifice. America's exposure increased while others watched. When allies realized America would cover the gap, a pattern emerged. Why spend more on defense when someone else already pays? This logic became self-reinforcing. The historical feedback loop is simple. European nations kept their defense budgets low. America filled the difference. Year after year, the cycle repeated. Allies built generous social programs while Washington funded the military umbrella protecting them. Here is the data point that reveals the imbalance. Germany spends heavily on healthcare and pensions. So does France. Meanwhile, America spends over $800 billion annually on defense, more than the next 10 countries combined. Much of that protects European territory, not American soil. The anomaly? Nobody broke the pattern. Allies had no reason to change because the system worked for them. Think of it like a group splitting a restaurant bill. If one person always volunteers to pay extra, why would others stop ordering expensive meals? Just as expansion blurred NATO's mission, this free rider cycle shifted nearly all risk onto one guarantor. The more America spent, the less pressure allies felt. The less they spent, the more America had to cover. The uncomfortable question remains: can any alliance survive when sacrifice flows in only one direction? The evidence suggests this loop cannot hold forever. The world changed, but NATO's focus did not. While America kept troops and weapons pointed at Europe, a far larger threat emerged across the Pacific. The historical shift is undeniable. In 2000, China's economy was smaller than Italy's. Today, it rivals America's. Beijing built the world's largest navy. It militarized islands. It threatens Taiwan daily. The center of global power moved east, but American resources remained locked in European commitments. Here is the strategic irregularity. America stations roughly 100,000 troops in Europe. Billions flow annually to bases, equipment, and exercises defending a continent that faces no existential threat comparable to what Taiwan, Japan, and South Korea confront. Think of it like guarding an old house while your new one catches fire. The danger is not where you are standing. Just as the free rider loop drained budgets without return, this misallocation costs America flexibility. Every dollar spent on European defense is a dollar unavailable for the Indo-Pacific. Every ship in the Mediterranean is one missing from the South China Sea. The open question cuts deep. Can America afford to guarantee Europe's safety while simultaneously confronting China? The evidence suggests NATO ties down resources needed elsewhere. The alliance, meant to protect American interests, now competes with them. Every dollar sent overseas is a dollar not spent at home. This is not theory. It is basic math, and the consequences are visible everywhere across America. The historical comparison is stark. In the 1950s, America built the interstate highway system while funding NATO. Today, bridges collapse, water systems fail, roads crumble, yet defense spending aimed at protecting Europe continues climbing. Here's the data that stings. America spends over $150 billion annually on overseas military operations and bases. Meanwhile, the American Society of Civil Engineers rates U.S. infrastructure a C-. Trillions are needed for repairs that never come. Think of it like paying your neighbor's security bill while your own roof leaks. Eventually, your house suffers. Just as NATO's mission drifted and spending stayed one-sided, the domestic cost became impossible to hide. Schools need funding, healthcare needs reform, communities need investment. Instead, tax dollars flow to bases in Germany and Poland. The anomaly is political. Leaders praise NATO as essential, yet voters see crumbling cities and wonder why foreign commitments take priority over local needs. The uncomfortable question lingers: how long can America afford to be Europe's protector when its own infrastructure is falling apart? The trail of money tells a clear story. The patterns all point in one direction. The original deal expired. Spending pledges stayed broken. The mission expanded without limit. Allies rode free while one nation carried the weight. Strategic focus stayed locked on the wrong continent. And back home, the bill came due in crumbling infrastructure and unmet needs. The historical parallel is unavoidable. Empires collapse not from external enemies, but from overextension and exhausted resources. America is not an empire by name, but the burden pattern looks identical. Now the question cannot be avoided. What comes next? 3 paths exist. Reform means forcing allies to finally meet their obligations and share the load equally. Realignment means shifting focus and resources toward actual threats like China, or the hardest truth, acknowledging that NATO no longer serves its original purpose and may cost more than it protects. Think of it like a subscription you forgot to cancel. Years pass, the charge keeps hitting your account. One day you realize you never use the service anymore. The data does not lie. The alliance built to defend American interests now drains them. The fractures are structural, not temporary, and the longer the reckoning waits, the harder the choices become. Something has to give.